Welcome to the Solution Podcast, everybody. We are back with another episode for you, and today we're talking about what does it mean to be pro-black in the UK today.
Absolutely.
You can check out all our socials in the description below, and also we are building a Solution Podcast studio, so all the donations go to PayPal and Cash App, also in the
That's
descriptions below. Check it out, support us please. And anything you donate will be welcome and will help us take our podcast to the next level.
Yes,
So,
absolutely.
My name is Mo, and today I'm joined with Octavio, Kobe,
What's good?
and we have a special guest,
Yes, we do.
Jean-Michel.
What's good? What's good? What's
Welcome,
good?
welcome.
Welcome, bro.
Good to have you. So without further ado, let's get into it.
Yeah.
This topic.
What does it mean to be pro-black?
Yeah.
Mm.
Should we start off with a bit of maybe like a bit of background or description from you about the movement?
So I kind of grew up in a household where, black consciousness was kind of promoted, even though my parents were very religious. My dad, he's had pictures up in the wall of people like Martin Luther King. He spoke to us about Nelson Mandela, because obviously those were the times where he was incarcerated, when I was really young. And Malcolm X too. So my journey kind of, I guess, to pro-blackness started when I started reading Malcolm X at a very young age.
Nice.
And that book really, it schooled me in so many things. Even though it was an autobiography, there was so much in there that kind of informed me about history. So I got to, and from that I started to research, obviously, being Caribbean, the slavery aspect of my ancestry, but also about, just discrimination, racism, how it affects us as black people in society. Obviously that was, that was about what happened in America, but I saw parallels with what was happening in the UK as well, with how Caribbean people were treated by the dominant society, especially my parents when they came over. And also I'm naturally rebellious anyway. I've got a natural rebellious streak, slightly anti-authoritarian.
I relate.
Yeah, so that, all those kind of things. At school I was very rebellious.
Okay.
When I went to uni, I always used to challenge my lecturers about, usually on racial issues.
Okay.
So I've always been that way. So I think I've got a reputation of being that way. So I used to get invited on different things, similar podcasts to this. Created my own pro-black group out of a group I was in on Facebook. So that's kind of like my background on, how, and I do self-identify as pro-black. So go into what that means, I guess. Later.
So what does that mean to you to be pro-black?
So for me, and I hate to start with this, but I have to because there's so much misinformation out there, unfortunately. And I hate saying this, but it's not about being anti-white. Now, I feel a way to say it. I don't think I have to do that.
Yeah, you shouldn't have to say that.
I feel funny to having to say that because it's not about white people at all.
Yeah.
But I have to do it because there's a perception out there.
There is.
That if you consider yourself to be pro-black, you hate white people.
Yeah.
Now they're not my number one interest. My interest is about the upliftment, so I put it down to a couple of things. So it's about uplifting, defending.
Yeah.
Okay. Addressing the issues that affect negatively the black community, and then progressing from that.
Yeah.
So it's really an in-house thing. It's about saying, okay, if we have to, once we acknowledge that there's issues within the community, there's two ways you can deal with it. You can ignore it, or there's a very great quote that says, if you're not part of the problem, you're part of the solution.
Yeah.
So me being pro-black is trying to be part of the solution. So we have a variety of issues that affect the black community that we're all aware of. And I'm one of those people that try to address those problems without blaming other people.
Yeah, but you said what it means to me. When I hear that, I'm hearing subjectivity already. I'm not hearing something objective. What do I mean by that? What it means to you, is that the same thing that it means to someone else in the pro-black community? Or do different people within the pro-black community, or claim to be pro-black, have different ideas of what it means to be pro-black?
So I clash with other people who call themselves pro-black all the time.
Wow.
You
Okay.
get some people who are pro-black black women only, or some people who are pro-black black men only,
Yeah.
and they clash.
Yeah. Oh
You know what I
gosh.
mean? And I clash with both. So yeah,
Would
so
you
you're
say
right.
there's a problem there then?
It's a huge problem because if you're not on
Definitely.
the same page,
Yeah.
then there's not going to be movement going forward, is it? If I feel that, for example, the number one way to address some of the issues is, for example, to try to establish a black family.
Yes.
Yeah.
You may be people who are within persuasion who consider themselves pro-black to say, well,
Yeah.
what does that look like?
Yeah.
I might say, well, for me, that's a black man, a black woman, and a black child. They may say, well, not necessarily. It could be two black men and a child, or two black women.
Mm.
I'm going to disagree on that. It doesn't mean we can't work on other issues, but on some key things, fundamental maybe, there's going to be clashes. So,
You see, from my perspective, what I'm hearing, sorry to interrupt you, bro. From my perspective, what I'm hearing is that the pro-black community needs to have some kind of hierarchy or some kind of manifesto that states this is what we stand for. And when let's say someone joins and calls themselves pro-blacks, and when they go outside of what it says, of what you guys stand for, then you'll say, then you're not pro-black. That way, you can regulate or you can maintain what it means to be pro-black without being so diluted by, well, different people with different biases and different people coming in with their biasness and kind of polluting what it means to be pro-black. Do you see what I'm saying?
yeah, but what you can do is you can look at, again, fundamentally what it means, okay, and go back to the basics of what we're talking about. And look at some of the people that came before us that used these terms. People like Malcolm X and people like that. They spoke about the bedrock of a strong black community was the black family. Most of the old school people that claim to be pro-black, they push that ideology that we need to establish black men need to be responsible and raise families. That was usually the bedrock of what they consider, and it's not just limited to black people. If you look at other communities, they kind of follow that same.
Has that changed?
That has changed. Absolutely, it's changed because we've integrated. We've integrated into a culture that doesn't value that for the majority of people.
Yeah.
They don't value marriage isn't valued for the majority of people now. This dominant society doesn't value it. So, but the original, like Marcus Garvey, for example, he spoke about that. It was important that we had that foundation to build off.
So,
Now, to add that, it's not about being homophobic or looking down on other people's lifestyles. What we're saying is, the root of what it means to be pro-black is a stabilized black community.
Yeah.
And then we got to look at the building blocks of what that is. And originally, that's what it was. It was the so-called nuclear family. Nuclear family. Now, saying that is not denigrating other groups. It's just being factual and saying that's what it was about.
I'm with you. I'm Christian, and then whenever I tell you that, I tell them that I don't agree with homosexuality. I'm labeled as homophobic, even though I have nothing against what a person chooses to do, but just because I hold this belief, I'm somehow homophobic. But going back to what you were saying is, if you have integrated into society, okay, because to me I kind of look at it like it was going to happen anyway. The longer you stay here, the more the more you are going to integrate eventually into society.
Right,
okay, if the pro-black movement wants to stay alive, wouldn't it be in their best interest to kind of create some kind of like boundaries or something? This is why I was alluding to the manifesto thing, or something that kind of defines objectively, this is what pro-black is, this is what we stand for. We have a hierarchy, we have levels to it, and there are people who make that type of decision and so on and so forth. Wouldn't it be in the pro-black's best interest if they want to continue to address issues that they think are unjust to black people and so on? Because if they keep integrating, eventually it was just the entire group will disintegrate. Sorry to say,
just be scattered.
It's a game of generations, isn't it? It's just the next generation will be weaker, the next generation will be weaker, and then there won't be no pro-black.
So I think, first of all, there's an ideology, and then there's what happens in real life. Now,
Yeah.
accountability is so important because my lifestyle is not conducive to some of the things that I think we should be promoting in pro-black. Hasn't been growing up, if you see what I mean. I've made mistakes, is what I'm basically saying. I've made mistakes. I'm not perfect.
Yeah.
We all have.
We all have.
Right.
We all have.
So what you do with that information is very important. Do you then perpetuate that to your children and other people around you? You say, look, I made these mistakes growing up. I was young and stupid, a young boy in West London, messing about, not being serious, being irresponsible. Now, what do I do with that information? Do I then perpetuate that to my children or to other people, young people?
No.
Or do you say, actually, let's take some accountability and say, well, my lifestyle wasn't conducive to what I consider pro-black now because I wasn't valuing the people that I was engaging with.
Yeah.
You know? So you take the information and you move on from it. And that's what we have to do. I think none of us who consider to be pro-black can say that we're perfect, that we've been perfect.
I've made
lives.
mistakes, but I'm not going to turn around and be, and deny what is right.
There you go.
Because I made some mistakes. There's no human being on earth that's perfect.
Right.
So, for example, I'm a Christian. Yes, I made loads of mistakes. Look at my life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I'm not going to tell my children Christianity isn't the truth. I'm still going to tell them this is the truth, and I will raise you accordingly, regardless of the mistakes that I made. I will still raise you according to what I believe to be the truth. Why? Because you are my legacy. When I pass away, I want you to have those core values that I believe are right, so that you can continue the legacy that I believe is right, that I believe should continue. So, regardless of our mistakes, we should be, for example, if pro-black is what you believe in, then you should be passing on those values over to your children, regardless.
So my thing is, this is where it can get controversial because as well as that, there's got to be some type of code. I called it a code, where if you're a black person, now this is where it can get controversial. I believe there's certain behaviors you should adopt.
Yeah.
Okay? This is what I believe. I think, for example, not siding with the dominant society against black people is the main one for me.
Okay.
Okay? And we see people make livings off that. I'm going to mention some names. Right?
Go ahead, bro. Go ahead.
Guys like Candace Owens.
Yeah.
You're familiar with her.
Yeah.
Guys like Jesse Lee Peterson.
Yeah.
Okay?
Jesse Lee Peterson, really?
Jesse Lee Peterson. There's one's in the UK.
Yeah.
Okay?
That guy's a clown, man.
Go ahead, bro.
I don't know. I'm not going to name them because I don't know. You know?
No. Name them, bro. Name
Well,
them.
I don't actually. To be honest, I'm not familiar with. There's one particular one that's come to mind, and she works for GMTV News, and she peddles a lot of the dominant talking points. Let's put it that way. That are a bit anti-black. There's this whole thing about now anti-wokeism, which to me is code for. In a lot of ways, not always, but at some level, it's a code for anti-black. I call it anti-blackness. Okay, so I give you an example of that. You had
I call it anti-human.
there was an American politician. He said he put up a picture of him with a white Santa Claus, and he said no woke Santa this year. And I thought, so what you interpret with that is
what's that mean?
no black Santa. That's what he genuinely. That's usually because you have black Santas as well.
Yeah.
And his thinking was, okay, I'm not. So there's a now. If you're pro-black, you're sensitive to those type of topics when they come up, and you're not only sensitive to them, you put out a counter narrative.
Yeah.
And if we don't have black people in the UK that do that, then you're gonna have you're gonna be undermined in every level. We have to have black people that identify at some level as being pro-black for us to exist even, or to have our own identity.
But this is why I was alluding to having a hierarchy, because if you don't have no one to enforce anything,
like a leader.
Yeah, like a leader, right?
Black leader.
Yeah, if you don't have that, I mean.
And we don't have it, and
What do you think? That's what I'm trying to say, like.
Yeah, I mean, historically, I mean, we look at the people that came before us, like you mentioned, Marcus Garvey, Malcolm X, Kwame Nkrumah. We looked at the people before us for leadership, but I feel like at one point we didn't celebrate them enough whilst they were here. We when they left, we martyred them, and today we struggle to accept authority figures. I don't know if it's because it's a reflection of our fathers not being at home and being raised in single parent families. I don't know if it's just a general rebellious nature for authority, and we just act like my philosophy about melanated people is that we're just chaotic. Like when you go to Africa, when you go to like deal with our people, we're chaotic, but we get things done in a chaotic way. Whilst other societies, they're more organized, they're more like logical, whilst we're very emotional. I don't know if that's by design or how we are naturally, but I feel like the fact that we don't have a leader, or the leaders that we do have in terms of political governments aren't reliable. So we're being failed on that side as well.
Yeah, because what I'm alluding to is we need leadership. So the pro-black movement needs leadership.
Yeah.
It needs leadership that has to be enforced.
Yeah.
It's almost like if you don't follow this, there will be consequences.
Okay.
If you don't adopt that way of thinking, then everyone can.
Okay, so the reason why leadership is the issue is because we mentioned some great black leaders. Most of them died young in tragic ways.
Probably killed.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So if you've got that in the culture where if I rise up to be a spokesperson, I may have a short life, that's going to filter down into the psyche of the people. They're going to be like, I don't want my son to be raise his head above the rest of us.
Yeah,
he
to
will
stand
be targeted.
out. Yeah, to stand out.
So there's a fear about that.
Yeah, that's
there's a fear of me there's a fear of me addressing even certain issues sometimes, because I think that in today's culture, cancel culture, in you know, if you speak against certain groups, if you have an opinion, forget that, just having an opinion, you are known as, you know, they've got names for you these days.
Right.
They
So
attack
before
you
it was a
personally.
physical death. Now they could just, you know, undermine you, cancel you, smear you, and so there's an element of that. There's also an element of being like a kind of almost like I wouldn't say underclass, but being in a situation where you're kind of struggling.
Yeah.
A lot of black people's minds are not focused on the very basics: food, clothing, and shelter.
Yeah.
You know, just acquiring those basics. So they haven't got the time to think outside of that and think, okay, well, what's happening in my community? Let me see if I can address.
Yeah.
So that's another issue as well.
Yeah.
And then on top of it, you get people who, as I said, if you start regurgitating the talking points of the dominant society, you can make a living from it.
Yeah.
So people think, actually, you know, if I want to actually progress myself in this society, I shouldn't actually talk about the upliftment of black people.
Yeah.
Actually, the opposite.
Yeah.
And there's all these different reasons different reasons or different, you know, how society is kind of managed.
Yeah.
That make black people very hesitant to step out of their comfort zone. Because for you to be a leader, you got to step out your comfort zone.
I'm sorry, but I believe that we need to adopt a different mentality. We need to adopt a mentality of sacrifice.
I agree. Yeah.
I understand your point. Killing your leaders will strike fear into the hearts of the rest of the people. Absolutely. And people will think twice. Why? Because I don't want to die. I want to raise my family. I just want to live peacefully. But at the same time, I want justice for myself. It makes perfect sense. But we have to, if we want things change, if we want to have a proper, let's say a proper organization, like a pro-black group, you need to have that leadership. And the person that's going to lead it needs to understand that, you know, you might lose your life because of what you're talking about. Look, Nation of Islam, all right? They have
the most successful ever black leader.
Thank you.
If you want to be technical, is Elijah Muhammad.
Thank you. Now,
he actually is he's more successful than Malcolm X. He's more successful than Nelson Mandela. He's more successful than MLK because what he did is lasting legacy.
Yeah, salute.
And look what when I look at the structure of it all, there's a hierarchy there. There's chain of command. There's you know, there's authority. There's punishments. There's all types. And it's enforced whether you like it or not. And you can't go against you know, the lead or the top. You just can't. Otherwise, guess what? Everything disintegrates, and then you have. You see what I'm saying? Now, okay.
Are the people ready to empower such a person? Like how would they decide that person?
I don't think it's up to the people. I think usually what it takes is a small number of people take a stand, and they and people gravitate to them eventually as time goes on, because they'll see that these people are not afraid, and these people are conducting themselves in a certain way, and so on and so forth, and they will gravitate to that, and they will want to follow that. And I think that's what needs to happen. But I don't think the pro-black community will continue to disintegrate itself if they don't have that leadership, and if they are not enforcing that leadership.
What could happen though? This is what could happen. You notice that in history tells us that when you get a group and you keep marginalizing them, they have no, basically put their backs against the wall. At some point, they have no choice but to unite. We've seen evidence of that, even in our
yeah.
where if you're literally being targeted, you have to unite.
Yeah, survival.
And leaders are forged organically from that situation. Now, I believe that the whole of Western Europe, the whole of Europe is shifting towards the right. This is what I think is happening. We've seen these populist parties growing up all around Europe, who a lot of them have either subtly or overtly racist rhetoric.
Okay.
We see it now with the Tory party. I think we're seeing it very right-wing, divisive politics.
Yeah.
That's going to filter down to society, and you're going to get a situation, not now, maybe in a few years, where to be black in this country may actually start to be something you're going to have to deal with on a day-to-day basis.
Okay.
Right? Now, if that happens, we're going to have no choice but to unite, and for leaders to come out of that organically. This is what I think is going to happen.
Oh, that usually happens.
What they'll do they'll give you this idea that you're progressing.
Yeah.
So this is how they've kept black people in a situation how we are, where they give you this fantasy that, oh, you're doing okay because look, there's one black person there, there's one black person there, there's one black person there.
They're good at that.
You've done well. They're very good at that.
Yeah.
And some of us fall for that. We're like, oh, look, we've got a black newscaster.
Obama.
That means racism.
Obama.
Symbols.
There you go. Perfect
Symbols.
example.
Yeah.
Perfect example.
So do you think the state of the kind of level that black people have been oppressed since like the Nation of Islam to now, do you think that's been getting worse or better? Have they achieved any goals?
You know what they've done? It's become psych. It's a psych ops now. It's not about you can't join this job.
Go on, say it.
You're laughing. You can't join this job with them. There's going to be an element of racism.
Yeah.
What they've done, therefore, the best way is to, let's talk to you about integration. Integrate them into our philosophy. Integrate them into believing that we are the dominant group.
Yeah.
Inherently.
Yeah.
That's what they do. So it's a psychological thing now.
Yeah, warfare.
What they've also done is there's certain ideologies that they've introduced into society, and I know you guys will be familiar with one called feminism. It's one way that they keep they subvert the black community.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why you notice they promote homosexuality with black people a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
In the media.
Yeah.
There's certain ideologies that they introduce to society that have a very negative effect on the black community because we're already disenfranchised and a bit,
feminism
open to indoctrination. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
Open to indoctrination. That's a good point. Yeah,
so, and they know what they're doing. That's why they promote. If you notice in America, they promote. I give you an example. Little Nas X.
Oh,
yeah.
He can't rap. He has no talent. He's not a talented rapper. Yeah. Like, can you name one lyric or even a song?
Isn't he a singer?
He did one song.
Isn't he a singer? No, doesn't he sing?
He's a rapper. He's not a very good rapper.
I don't
But
think people
however,
rap these days,
now this is not to denigrate his sexuality. I'm just making a point that they openly promote him.
Yeah.
Because of his sexuality.
Yeah. Absolutely. Right. They're normalizing it in the black community.
Can you really think of that happening in other minority groups? Can you think of another minority group that's happened?
I reckon it's.
I can't.
No. Oh, I see what you're saying.
Well,
okay.
Okay. So this is what I'm saying. The point I'm making is that they know how to. It's like a psychological warfare.
I would
Yeah,
say
yeah.
what they, for example, everyone knows that black people are very rhythmical people. So you use people according to their strengths. If I'm an empire, and I've got all these people that are my subjects, all these different races, I look at them and I see what they're good at, and then I use them in order to promote whatever agenda I want them to eventually integrate in.
Yeah.
That's what you would do. So, for example, we know that musically, I mean, come on, no no one can deny that the black people, when it comes to music, we revolutionized in. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
when you listen to Western music today or pop culture, it's
Oh, yeah, we
so
dominate.
black.
Completely,
We
yeah.
dominate music. Now, of course, you're gonna use. How do I use that? If I wanted to promote a certain ideology, and I know these people are good at certain things, well, that's one medium that I can use them in order to promote this ideology. So I would grab those people, and I would say, okay, we're gonna fund. When it comes to music, we're gonna fund these people more. We're gonna use these people more. So yeah, that's. I mean, to me, that just makes perfect sense.
It makes perfect sense, but
They're doing the same thing to Christianity. For
Right, yeah,
example,
yeah, they
now they've
are,
got,
yeah.
apart from marginalizing Christians in society, they now have these new woke kind of Christians that literally go against the Bible, and they they get, I don't know how they call themselves bishops. They open up churches, and then they say that homosexuality and whatever, the alphabet, like it's normal, it's okay,
Or like you
Yeah.
can have like gay marriages and
yeah,
stuff
you
like
can
that.
have all of that, and Jesus loves all of you, and it's all. I mean, they
Yeah.
As a
literally.
Christian, I let you
Uh,
that's your challenge.
That's all our challenge, man.
but what I'm saying is that you can see how they play the game. You can see if they.
Yeah. That's their tactics, isn't it?
That's their
their
tactics.
playbook.
It's a psych. It's everything is
Psycho, yeah,
psychological.
it's a
It's
psyop,
all
yeah.
psych. So they
Yeah.
know they infiltrate different types of philosophies they infiltrate the society through the media, and that in itself is a controller mechanism. And they know it impacts certain groups differently because of the history.
Yeah.
So, for example, if you have a history, you spoke about the lack of fathers in the black community.
Yeah.
So if there's already an issue with the lack of fathers in the black community, how will feminism impact that? Feminism will impact that community much more than where the other cultures where there is fathers
Yeah.
present.
Yeah.
You understand what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's not done by design. If you push feminism to a culture where there's already a lack of fathers, is that going to help it or hinder it even more?
It will hinder it.
Hinder it, absolutely.
Because then you got men. Then you got there's an empowerment,
Yeah.
and over emphasis on empowering women.
Yeah. And there's no
Then there's-
pushback.
And
There's relationship
yeah.
issues within the community,
Yeah.
and then men are not feeling empowered, making bad decisions, bad choices,
Yeah.
going off their lust, which is what we have to be careful of, especially as black men.
Hookup
Yeah.
culture.
Hookup culture, and also as we spoke about,
We did a show on that.
our own culture promotes everything that we shouldn't be doing
Yeah. Why is that?
by design. Is
By
what
design.
I'm saying.
Yeah, so do you think like we don't have the strength to like counter it to
Great question.
yeah, like cuz
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, because I feel like this. We know what's going on. Everyone in the room knows what they're doing. So how come? And I'm sure most people out there know what's going on. So how come we're struggling to push back?
that's the thing. They
Let me
don't.
give you my.
You reckon?
They don't. They're aware of what they are doing. They're
Yeah.
aware of their actions, but most people are being born into a feminist culture that's already here.
Jeez.
They're not being born into a traditional value culture. They're not.
True,
They're not
true,
being born into that. They're
true.
being born into so
True.
they look at everything that's happening in society as normal. That's how they see it.
Yeah.
So that's why I say it's a generations game.
Mm.
The biggest issue that the black community has, very
Right now,
psychologically, I'm talking about the deep rooted issue is
Yeah.
low self esteem.
Yeah. Yeah.
From that comes a man who doesn't value himself to make the right decisions in terms of who he wants to impregnate or even have a relationship with. If you have low self esteem, you would take anyone, and you have no sense of value, and that leads to poor decision making.
Yeah.
Right? For a woman now, her low self esteem, she'll take anything.
Yeah.
That already causes a crumbling of society, of a community, when you've got people making irresponsible decisions sexually,
Yeah.
with children that come from that.
Yeah.
I made a statement the other day and people got mad at me. I said, I would say probably in the last 20 years, maybe 10% of black children were planned.
That's the 10%.
I'd say 10% of black children were planned.
Wow, that's low.
I may be wrong on that.
Yeah.
And I'd like someone to challenge me, but I believe it's very low.
Yeah.
And I'm saying 10%
Yeah.
to make a point.
But it's a real truth.
Yeah.
It's
How
a
many
very real
black
truth.
children are where the mum and dad sat down and said, we are going to have a family.
Yeah.
This is what I'm going to do to support the family. This is what I'm going to do. And got together and said, let's have a child in 6 months.
Yeah.
And there's a groundwork for it.
Like if you're gonna say it in that way, yeah, because we know that 80%.
But in any way, there's not being planned.
Yeah, and that's the chaos element I was
There
talking
you go.
about. I don't know if is it
Well, it's
orchestrated.
No, I
Because
think
it
I
com-
think
it
I think
comes-
it's a lack of moral foundation. We don't have nothing to counteract. You're calling it self-esteem, but I think all of that is in it. But it's also a lack of moral foundation. When you don't have a moral foundation, the powers that be, they will indoctrinate you.
Yeah,
First, it biologically starts with having a father and mother at home. That's where it starts with. No wonder why feminism went to get rid of the fathers. That's the first thing, and then you get rid of the moral foundation. Now you're just open for
season.
indoctrination.
It's open season now.
You're open for indoctrination, and then of course that's going to destroy that person. But
Well,
yeah,
what we're lacking is shame. I've always said that we lack shame. We're not
That's
embarrassed
moral-
anymore.
morality
but
then.
if you look at our parents, there were things in the community that was embarrassing.
Yeah.
yes,
I don't want to shame people, but we know what they are. There were things that were, if you did that
Yeah.
and came back with something, they were like, hey, this is not acceptable. You can keep to the side now.
yeah.
Wow.
Shame comes from having a moral foundation. Having babies out of wedlock, people were shamed for that.
Yeah.
Sleeping around and all of that, promiscuity, people were shamed for that. These things are now encouraged. These things are no longer, these things are no longer shamed. So to me,
Degeneracy.
yeah, degeneracy.
And we're the only community where degeneracy is promoted, and more importantly, this is where the dominant society come into it.
championed.
Rewarded. No,
Rewarded. Sorry, rewarded. Yeah.
We're the only community where if you
Yeah.
debase yourself, we reward you for it.
Wow,
And the more debase you get, the more rewards you get.
Yeah.
Look at WAP. Now, that song WAP.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, we all do, bro.
Right.
We all do.
Cardi B and
Can you think of any other ethnic group
That's
of
very-
women that could promote, to create that song, put it on YouTube, and it not get sanctioned, banned, promoted,
Yeah.
played in front of kids, no guidance around who can listen to it or not? Can you think of any other group that
Yeah,
let's
they
go
don't.
through the ethnicities and try and think which one would do
I
it?
see what you're saying. You're
But-
saying because of that, then yeah, you can see that that's deliberately the black people are being deliberately attacked as a result. Of
Because that's not that's degenerate.
Yeah.
that is degenerate. Yeah.
Right, and that is, if you have that as a norm in a culture, and you promote that as, hey, that's them, they can do that. That's
Yeah.
their own.
Yeah.
That lessens yours. As I said, the self-esteem. This is why I keep talking about self-esteem.
So do you think like we need more personal development then? Like we should get into that?
We need more responsible men in the community.
Yeah, okay.
We need God in men.
Jeez, we need everything. We need hope.
Accountable men as well. We need accountable men.
Absolutely.
Because we, as I said, we all make mistakes, and no one is
Yeah.
perfect. But if you're trying to make at least your generation behind you do better,
Yeah. Sorry.
that in itself is a great thing. If you're trying to do that, at least
Yeah.
try and do that.
Yeah.
Let me
that's what
correct
we-
myself.
yeah.
We need God and fathers because we can't just mention men. We need God and fathers.
Fathers, yeah.
Men that want to be fathers and want to be
Yeah.
leaders and want to bring back traditional values and so on and so forth. That's the kind of men that we need. So I would say we need God and fathers. That's what we need.
And it's funny when you say that. Some woman may be upset with that. What do you mean? What about the women? Now I always say to them, this whole idea.
Women are
that,
followers.
how many men here have had a woman? Have you turned to your woman and say, "You're the woman, you make the decision"?
No.
That's a foreign
I don't
concept.
think-
I've never thought of that.
If we're in a room
concept.
full of women right now, and I
Yeah.
said to the women, "Have you ever said to your significant other, at one, maybe not this one, but at one time in your life,
Yeah.
you're the man, you make the decision"?
Yeah.
They would look at you as if
I've heard that said to me.
relationship with.
I've had it said to me.
I've heard
I'm
that
sure
said-
you've had it said
Oh
to
yeah,
you.
you're the man. You make the
Yeah,
decision.
yeah,
Oh yeah,
yeah,
yeah. So
that's
yeah,
it.
yeah,
So
absolutely.
what, so what are they saying?
Yeah,
then?
yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
They're saying that inherently they know that we're better decision makers.
Yeah.
Isn't that what they're saying? Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah.
No, that's
absolutely.
exactly what they say.
Absolutely.
So what does that mean then? That means that if if they're saying we're the best decision makers, are we saying that ourselves then? If they're acknowledging it, when are we going to acknowledge it?
Yeah, why don't we?
The day when we acknowledge it, we'll make better decisions.
Yeah.
Not just in the relationship, but before you even get into the relationship, and in terms of who you're going to get a relationship with.
Yeah.
I reckon we don't acknowledge it because we are surrounded by modern women, by modern feminist women.
Modern men.
I'm sorry, modern men. Yeah,
Both.
Both. We're surrounded by both, and we are living in a culture that promotes it. That's the reason why men don't acknowledge it no more. And I think until the only thing that's going to traditional men are the only people that are the only men that are going to change this situation around. If we are ever going to change the situation around, I personally don't think it will. As you know, according to my belief, things are going to get worse, not better.
Damn.
So, but in order to turn all this around, because let's not also forget the Western culture. It's the most popular culture around the world. It's the culture that gets pushed around the world and promoted around the world. So this is a global agenda. It's no longer just a Western world agenda. It's being promoted and pushed into every single country outside the Western world, and they're doing it for a reason, of course. But the thing is, the only people that's going to change it are, to me, traditional men.
And it
Men-
ties back to the
yeah.
pro-blackness, because if you're pro-black, one of the things you need to be is not so easily swayed, not so easily infiltrated. If you see
Yeah.
what I mean.
Influence. Yeah.
Influence, yeah,
Yeah.
that's the word.
Yeah.
That's about being pro-black too. So
Yeah.
agendas are bombarding the community. You gotta have people that say, "No, I'm not accepting that one. This is divisive. This is going to make my community be worse than it is." That's what it means to be pro-black to me.
I'm sorry, but bro, I think
Yeah.
just like what they call the Black Lives Matter, right? Just like they have a manifesto and they state in their manifesto that this is what we believe in, this is what we are about.
Yeah.
The pro-black movement needs to have the same thing. And if someone enters into the group and they don't have the same ideals, they have to have the courage of saying, "Listen, you don't stand for what we stand for. You can leave."
I
You
think they
don't-
do. I think they do. They just don't have. They're just not big.
Nah.
Yeah.
They do. You're right. They do, but there's still a little bit. I mean, let me just say something though. That BLM thing you're talking
Yeah.
about, that's not their agenda.
That's not.
That's not their manifesto. That's a manifesto that was given to them.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, but regardless,
No,
but it's still what they when
Yeah,
you
yeah, it's
read
still
what they're
something to
about.
go
for.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it's still something that they go by.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Do you know why? Do you know why? If I was to write a pro-black agenda, it would probably be considered as discriminatory.
why don't
Serious.
It would be.
Damn.
In this day and age, it would be.
would they be considered
discriminatory.
racist to non-black people?
To some, and to some black people, we can maybe consider racist.
Are you
Which
talking
is,
about
part,
UK?
which is part of the problem, actually.
Are you talking about within the UK or globally?
I think,
Because we've got the Pan-African agenda.
yeah, but the Pan-African agenda is, I mean, we could talk about Pan-Africanism, but
Yeah.
I'm not a big...
What about the African Union? Nah. But that's a political.
I'll give you a quick
Yeah.
view on that. Pan-Africanism is when you have, you know Wizard of Oz, when they had like a...
Why go there?
Because it's not... okay, for it to work,
Yeah.
where would it have to work first?
Africa. Oh, it's because Africa's.
Even in African countries, there's people 3 or 4 warring in one country.
Yeah.
Let alone within.
Yeah, it's too diverse.
So
yeah.
there's no unity there.
Yeah, facts.
If I understand the goal to be all black people congregate in Africa.
Yeah.
Okay, why am I congregating in a place where there's people killing each other?
Yeah. Oh my God, you need to go Africa, man.
I'm just being real.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about me going. I'm talking about if the whole diaspora
Yeah.
descends on Africa, what do you think would happen to those people?
they would have to integrate. They would have to live the same reality that all those.
Would they be
Africans are living.
accepted?
There'll be
Hold on.
xenophobia. There'll be conflict.
Of course they would be, because
No,
we already see it within the.
But the
It
thing
will
is,
happen.
but again, it can't. But the sacrifice still has to be made.
Yeah.
Human beings are always going to be difficult to deal with,
But
regardless.
we're talking about logistics. We're talking about literally. If we talk about Pan Africa, that's to be. This is what I'm saying. It's
Yeah.
mostly just talk.
Yeah.
People, let's get down to the logistics of what that means. There has to be infrastructure
Yeah.
in a country to accept people from diaspora. There has to be an infrastructure there to accommodate. Land, housing, infrastructure,
but we're
schooling, jobs.
Isn't it us responsible to build it though?
It is, but we can't be building. If you notice, the biggest Pan Africans are outside of Africa.
Yeah.
They're in America.
Yeah.
They're the one that push.
Dr. Umar, and then
Go to Africa and do that Pan African stuff and see how. Marcus Garvey, he had to leave Africa and go to America to try and promote it.
But what I'm saying is, hold on.
That's not putting down Africa. It's just saying that there's a lot.
the truth.
But what is the AU doing? The AU could be doing a lot more.
Yeah.
And I do see some people. I do see glimmers of hope. I see like in South Africa, there's like a movement to kind of consolidate the power and away from the foreign people.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way.
But even that leader, he's pro alphabet. Like he made a statement recently.
Are you talking about the
It's John something. I forgot his last name.
guy that wears the red beret?
Yeah, that guy.
Okay, I didn't. Wasn't aware of that.
See, we thought he was pro-black, right? But then he made that statement not too long ago. So they're infiltrating us everywhere.
Yeah, but the thing is, come on, let's just be logical about the situation. If they are in control, if they are the dominant power, that's what I said earlier. If you have an empire, of course, whoever the empire will always infiltrate if they want to. Why? Because they have the means to do so, and they have the power to do so,
and it's in their best interest.
So they're always going to. They're always going to look after their own self-interest first. Yeah. The idea that they will be nice to you or good to you, to me, it's just childish to even think like that. But just going back to the whole, the diaspora, kind of going back to Africa and so on and so forth. Look, I would say, get enough money, go up there and settle there and stay there, right?
But that's you're talking about.
Most of them just wouldn't. I just can't see can't see them doing it.
No, there's people that have done that.
Yeah, people are doing
that
it. There's a movement.
There's a movement.
Yeah.
So it happens. But I'm talking about Pan African, from my understanding, is a global movement where all black people will unite.
Yeah.
Now maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's changed. Maybe that's not what it means. I know meanings change.
Yeah.
But even just in terms of unity on the basic level, ideology-wise.
Yeah.
No.
You got Muslim, you got African Muslims and African Christians and African socialists and African communists and African capitalists.
But there's other communities. They've got their subgroups, but they still come together and unite for the greater cause of their community. If that makes sense. Like, can I give you my definition of being pro-black? To be pro-black, you need to be culturally, politically, economically, and spiritually devoted to the success of the community. You have to be an advocate and patriotic and unapologetic about being pro-black. And for me, that every person can embrace that ideology to some degree, and the levels of how hardcore you act on that ideal is the level of how pro-black you are.
All right, let me throw something in the mix.
I think that's a good definition.
Let me throw something in the mix.
Thanks, man.
Because I see it all the time. Because as you know, I've been in pro-black groups. I see it all the time. The race issue between mixed race people and darker skinned people. Yeah. I would say if you're pro-black, then as you guys know, I identify myself as a Christian, so that's my ideology. If you're pro-black, you can't marry outside of your race. I would argue that would be a requirement in order to be pro-black. So, for example, you couldn't be with a white girl. You couldn't be with an Asian girl. You couldn't be... Would you agree with that?
I would agree with that.
I think the end.
So I think there's a difference between being a pro-black and being a black activist.
Okay.
Being a black
Okay.
activist is not really.
Yeah.
So there's examples of that. We have Bernie Grant is a great example. He was a
Okay.
black activist, but he partly was white.
Okay.
Now, I think it's important to clarify that the reason why that would be the case is because if you want to, remember I said the root of what I believe, the foundation block is the black family.
That's right.
So if that's the foundation block, I give you an example. I saw was it a video or some meme or something where it was a podcast actually. It was a white guy talking to a black guy, and he was complaining that his black wife, is calling her daughter a black princess.
I see that.
Did you see that one?
Yeah,
I didn't see that.
Now I said
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with him having an issue with it
Yeah.
because if she wanted a black princess,
Yeah.
what would she have done?
She should have got with
Yeah.
a black person. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I'm not saying she's right or wrong. I'm just saying if we want to go down to the basics of it, if I say if you're a Chinese person, say you want to have a Chinese princess, he's gonna get a Chinese woman to impregnate with.
Yeah.
So it's not a racist thing to say.
Yeah.
It's just saying that if we're talking about promoting, especially if you're coming from a community that's already struggling,
Yeah.
and you're trying to build it up, it kind of makes sense to say, okay, let's try and build within our ethnic group.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a racial.
So do you think that's
Racist, sorry.
Do you think that's racist or race loyalist?
Yeah, loyalist.
Yes, race loyalty. Because you're not denigrating other groups. There's a reason. Remember we spoke about this in the car.
That's right. Yeah.
How it's when a white person says that, we got to look at why a white person would say that. Now, how his culture historically has been about repudiating other groups of people and saying that we're genetically superior.
Yeah.
That's their reasoning why they may not want someone in their family to go over a non-white person.
Yeah.
As pro-black people, I don't think that's not the reason.
Although
I would argue that some may have that.
I would argue that this idea, racism was built. It's an ideology that was imposed not only on white people, but it was imposed on many people through theories like evolution, feminism, evolution theory. I think just like feminism was imposed on society, it was imposed on a group of people, the lower classes, so on and so forth. I believe so was racism. It was also imposed, and it was done by design. And of course, if you tell a group of people that you're superior to other people, and then you have these people in chains, of course, more people are going to accept it. They're actually going to believe in it. It's to me, it's indoctrination, and I believe that's. I mean, you see it today with feminism and how feminism has infiltrated family, has infiltrated everything. This was pushed on the people, and back when feminism was created, people were still living traditional lives. They didn't want feminism, but guess what? The government kept pushing and pushing and pushing until now. And now, well, look what you've got. That's what I would argue. But going back to the whole, so yeah, you'd say that's race loyalist, not racism, because I want to make that distinction. Because I have no issue with someone being race loyalist. If you believe in that type of stuff, again, I have to insist that my ideology, we don't believe in that. We believe that every human being is made in the image of God. So we don't have this idea of race. But I have no issues with, let's say, a Chinese person saying, I only want, Chinese men to marry Chinese women and Chinese women to marry Chinese men. So I have no issue with a black man or a black woman saying, you know what, we should only marry amongst each other. That's it. Don't accept any other race. And yeah, I would argue that's fair. But what would you say is the main issues now in comparison to, let's say, back in the 1960s and so on? What are the main issues that the pro-black movement is kind of fighting against in 2023?
Men have a lot to answer for, especially black men have a lot to answer for in terms of how our society our community looks at them all.
Yeah.
Here at the Solution Podcast, brother, I just want to say that we believe that men are the problem.
Okay, fair enough.
Sometimes.
It's wrong to just put things on women. You can't on one hand say they're the weakest sex and then say, oh, it's their fault.
Yeah.
That's exactly the conclusion that I came to. It says, are you guys supposed to be the leaders? Okay, I do understand that there is a feminist culture that is trying to feminize men. I do understand all of that. But regardless, since women are followers, you are not, you can't expect the follower to change things around. It's the leaders, which, in quote, men, it's the leaders that will have to change things around.
Yeah, that's
right?
like the challenge of the leader.
Yeah, it's a challenge for the
Part
leader,
of the-
not
part
a
of the
challenge
challenge.
for the follower.
And you have to change yourself first.
Yeah.
Change starts
yeah,
within.
yeah.
So as men, we have to,
Yeah.
you know, we have to be honest with ourselves and say, am I really out here, you know, being the best version of myself that I, you know, could
Yeah.
be?
I'm trying to stop myself from being a modern man.
Right.
I'm trying to transition back to being the traditional man, but I've already made loads of mistakes. That I would, if I look at my past, I would say, yeah, I was a modern man. But now now that I've realized that that's wrong, I'm trying to do the right thing and become a bit more traditional.
Yeah.
So the family, then you'd say the family's
With the man.
the man.
The black man has to change.
The black man has to
Do you
Has to
think the
start
black
with
man
us.
needs God? Like needs a spiritual foundation, a strong one, not like do what thy
You
will.
know, this is what I'd say. Now, I
Yeah.
try to be as logical as possible.
Yeah.
And I know from experience that men who seem to have a some religious affinity,
Yeah.
tend to be more responsible
Yeah.
and tend to be more less swayed
Yeah.
and more
grounded.
grounded and
Yeah.
just basically more. Yeah, I think responsible is the best word I can use because
Yeah.
then they make decisions about. They understand there's someone looking,
Yeah.
Yeah.
judging.
Yeah.
When you
This
understand
guy.
that, you know,
Yeah.
it makes you perform. You see it
Yeah.
with your own kids, isn't it? When you're looking at, they're what am I doing wrong about it?
Yeah. What's it? Higher purpose
Yeah.
now. Yeah.
Yeah, so that,
Yeah.
so I'm never again. I'm not one of those people that say, you know, don't, you know. I can see that. I see my own family. My dad is religious, and I saw how he dealt with us
Yeah.
and how he maintained the family
Yeah.
in hard times. Good, you know, that was his focus
Yeah.
because he had that religious thing. So
Duty over.
yeah,
Duty
there you
over
go.
happy. Over feeling happy.
Yeah.
But there's doubt. There's you know, but okay. So that's the good side of it.
Mm.
Now, is every ideology that comes with some of these religions beneficial to us as black people?
Mm.
I'm not too sure about that.
Need to find one or make up
Yeah,
one.
because you know, obviously Nelson would disagree with me on this point.
Completely.
But
150%.
with Christianity, there's a history there with Christianity
Yeah.
where
Yeah. We're not going for that.
I'm not 100% sure that
Pagan.
We're not going
the,
for
the
that.
new version
Yeah.
of, I call it plantation Christianity,
This guy.
is beneficial for our psyche to be
Yeah.
following that.
Which
Yeah.
ideology would you say is beneficial for the black community in the Western world? Because I'll be honest with you, bro, I don't think we have a black community. I don't even think we have a community. Since the moral foundation has been stripped, since the last moral foundation that black people had an affinity to was Christianity, and now they have basically accepted other ideologies, whether it's feminism, ideologies to do with feminism. Now we've got Kemets, we've got Hebrew Israelites, and so on and so forth. We've got all these. Which ideology would you say would be more beneficial for the black community to follow?
But that's why I said
outside
to you,
of Christianity.
But that's why I said to you before that because of all of that,
Mm.
the code we have to have. There's a code. We could come up with a code.
Yeah.
Right? Don't allow our community to be just attacked without you not defending it.
Yeah.
Don't allow just any ideology to come within a community and we just accept it.
Yeah.
Defending ourselves and uplifting ourselves. If we could just focus on that, that would make a big difference. Because you can do that as a Muslim, Christian, atheist, Hebrew Israelite. If you have those principles,
Yeah.
that doesn't really factor into that.
Yeah.
You can do all those things as too, because if I'm a realist,
Yeah.
you can't get deep. You can't have complete unity with
Yeah.
someone being a Muslim and someone being a Christian.
Yeah,
There's
that's
fundamental things they're not going to disagree on.
Yeah.
So why focus on that situation where you're not going to get
Yeah. So do you
unity
think,
there?
so
So we got to come with something broader.
Yeah.
You see, but as a Christian, that poses a problem for me because I disagree. Look, for example, I could never agree with the LGBTQ agenda, especially being taught in schools. I could never agree with that. Just as a Christian. That's end of. I can't. It's written in the Bible. This is wrong. That's it. End of. You can't come in and you can't convince me. There's not you wouldn't be able to come up with an argument to change my mind. It's just, it wouldn't work.
But even though you disagree, you're not gonna disrupt your daily life. You're not gonna disrupt the way you live your life because of this disagreement. You're still in line with the laws of the land.
No. My moral, you see, everything, and this requires knowledge from people. In terms, a lot of people talk about Christianity, but they don't actually know Christianity, or they don't really read the Bible. Everything it offers me a complete moral foundation on how to behave and what is right and what is wrong. Do you see what I'm saying? So, for example, I can live in this country. I can say I'm not in agreement with something, but that doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to do something to you. I'm going to hurt you. I'm going to attack you. I'm just gonna stand there and say, look, I don't agree with this. Don't bring it over to me. I can live in society peacefully with other people, but I don't think other people can live peacefully with me. If this is why you're seeing Christianity be marginalized, attacked, and so on from all fronts. Why? Because for some reason I trigger them. They don't trigger me. Because my moral foundation has already advises me. It tells me about sin. It tells me that these things will happen. I already know all of this. I can coexist with them. I don't think they can coexist with me.
Yeah.
I think the code you're talking about is morality, really.
I think it's
It's
political
an element which is kind of agreed upon, like within throughout religions.
But that code could never, for example, a code without having God as the foundation could never last long. For example, that camaraderie that you have with those people, yes, you come up with a code among brothers and so on, but eventually it will fall victim to subjectivity, meaning it's not objective enough for everyone to actually follow. Someone will come along and say, you know what? Finn used to say this, John used to say this, but I disagree. I think we should do it this way. I think this is better, so on and so forth. And I don't think it will stand the test of time. Human beings eventually, it will basically drown into subjectivity eventually.
I'll give you an example though. Like if you look at in America, there's that reparation movement. They've got reparation music. And now there's a guy that advocates for it. He's homosexual. And he's in a group of people that are pushing this. And people have said, but that guy's gay. And other people said, that we don't care that he's gay. We're on the same code. Could we have an objective in mind? That's kind of an example. So if we have a code where we want our young boys to be more responsible, and that might mean like actually creating camps or creating workshops which is what I'm involved in.
Nice.
Where you actually create workshop for young men to be say, look, it's not about chasing girls willy-nilly and engaging in irresponsible sex. You can be of any culture, of any race, of any religion, and get involved in that.
Yeah.
You don't have to be.
Yeah.
So this is why again the Pan-African thing. I don't consider. I want tangible results. Things that I could actually see working.
Yeah.
Pan-African is I can't see the global there's too much involved.
Yeah, they're not selling it well.
Right, so this is what for me being pro-black, it's about what can I physically change myself. And if everyone has that view, that's what you see. If you had that view, and you did your own thing working with your young people, you did your own thing, or you thought, okay, let me clean up this area, or let me defend this situation here.
Yeah.
Then you see collectively it would just make a difference.
So do you think that means it's in the realm of community, which is politics? Like, would it be in that realm rather than religion?
No. I think what John's saying is establishing a code.
A political code.
A code which.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, that's a good. Yeah. So do you mean aligning yourself with a political party? Do you mean that, or do you mean just?
Yeah, that could work.
A political party could form out of that. Do
you mean the existing ones we have now, or creating something completely new?
Something new, just like.
Yeah,
just
I mean that
by your
would
point.
Be
like just by your point, I'm just trying to see the trajectory of how it could grow. So it's not going to grow in the religious realm.
No. Okay.
It's not going to grow in the economic realm. It sounds like it's going to grow in the political realm.
Yeah.
Does the pro-black movement have any political agendas or ideas about being a political party?
No, because it wouldn't garner any members. Because you have to understand, even in the black community,
that's a red flag.
Even in the black community, pro-black is not minority. It's more tiny. There's lots of black people that proudly say they're not pro-black. Proudly, I am not pro-black.
Yeah.
Those guys are fools. Those guys are racists.
Right.
Because remember, in the black community, there's a lot of interracial dating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if some men, a lot of black men involved in it, so they tend to shy away from it
Yeah.
because they feel that they'll be attacked if they come into the mix and
I'm,
but you've got a white, non-black person.
Yeah.
So it's a very small demographic
Yeah.
within the bigger one.
I would say I'm pro-black in the sense of I don't want to see the black community kind of disintegrate through integration. I'm pro-black in that sense, but I'm not pro-black in the sense of being a race loyalist. I've no issues with people who are race loyalists, with pro-black even being race loyalists. No issues with that at all. It's just because of my moral foundation that Christianity tells me that it's not about race and so on and so forth. That's the only thing. But I don't want the black community in the Western world to kind of disintegrate through integration. That's what I don't want that to happen. Do you see what I'm saying? So in that sense, I support them. Do you see what I'm saying? But
and my biggest criticism about people that identify as pro-black is, especially online, some people think that because they don't date out their race and they say negative things about non-black people, oh, I'm pro-black.
Yeah.
No, that's not pro-black. Pro-black is when you're actually doing something in the community to benefit.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, there's too many people that fall into that first category.
Yeah.
They just think, saying stuff online and, okay, I don't date on my race. Oh, that makes me pro-black.
Yeah.
But then when there's actually work to be done and you're calling out for people, no one turns up.
Yeah. That's a big issue in the community. That's a very big issue.
But if someone turns up that's got a white partner, I mean, what am I supposed to say to that person? Oh, no, I'm still waiting for the ones that are race loyal to come so you can go away.
Yeah.
That's not smart. That's not a smart way of thinking for me as a, if there's work to be done.
Yeah.
And you're coming to do it, I don't really care.
Yeah, you work with who you. Who's
because
there,
there's too much of this. There's too much of that.
Yeah, fact.
And to be honest, online has destroyed a lot of black people's minds.
I've experienced it myself. Listen, I've been through racism in these groups. And
triggering them, man.
No, I'm not triggering them. But the thing is, I would never be against them. I would never be against their cause at all. Because people are too sensitive these days. It is what it is. You're gonna find it everywhere, and it's not the majority. You know what I mean? You find that it's usually a small minority, and so on and so forth. But it's fine. It's okay. Fine. Get over it. But what's important is what they're standing for, and
more than that, what they're doing.
Yeah. Sorry.
That's what they're doing.
Yeah. When you stand for something, you need to be doing something.
Like, I do things. I try to actually go out. If there's a cause that needs, I try to go out my way to go and support.
Yeah.
If there's like an issue they had recently with black children that were in care that were being abused and they weren't getting compensation. So I went to Brixton and I tried to get involved.
Yeah.
When the girl was abused by the police in Hackney, I was on a steering group that tried to. That's where you're actually doing something.
Yeah.
But just going online talking.
It's more than just talking. Yeah.
Anyone can do that.
You have to be active. You have to be active.
Yeah.
You have to live out what you actually claim to believe in.
So that to me, if you really want to break down what pro-black is about, doing something. It's just about talking.
Contributing.
Because anyone can talk.
So going back to the challenges facing the pro-black. So you mentioned the family is definitely a big one.
To clarify that.
Yeah,
Before I would have said family, but when you're honest with ourselves.
Break it down. Then
I agree.
Then you'd say lack of activism in the amongst the pro-black community.
Yeah, not defending them. We don't defend. Again, you got to go back to. We don't defend our communities.
And I think that's a testament to the integration, right?
Yeah.
Because they integrate and it's harder to defend. I've even noticed that even with certain people who identify themselves as pro-black, because they've got a white partner, it's more difficult for them to be against certain ideals, or pro-black ideals, or ideals that are viewed as pro-black, that the majority would basically support. So they feel compromised.
Compromised.
Yeah, I think that's the right word, right? Compromise, right? They feel yeah, exactly. And that kind of, I think that taints the movement personally. That's just my opinion on that. Of course, again, I have to stress that I don't believe in the race theory in that level, on the same level as but I'm all for race loyalists and so on and so forth, because I believe that's actually natural. 80% of 80% of a certain race always marries within its own race anyway. It's only a small percentage that really, marry out. So I think that's, but in the black community, I think black community is getting worse and worse and worse and worse. And with these feminist ideologies influencing it, it's even getting worse. So going back to, okay, that's another challenge. What other challenges is there for the pro-black community in 2023?
I think economically we need to be doing a lot better.
Economically,
yes, I think if you look at, I'd like to compare. I'm very against comparing communities, but like
the Asian community. Is that what you're gonna say?
Well, there's more Asians than black people, so I think it's
really? What's the population?
Way more.
There's
like 5 or 6 times more Asian people than there are black in the whole of the UK.
Yeah, in the whole of
the UK.
the UK.
You go to Leicester, those places. Bradford. There's actually a full massive Asian communities.
Okay.
So sometimes I think it's unfair to say, "Oh, why don't we do what the Asians do?" or things like that. I don't agree with that type of thinking anyway, because there's different history and all that.
Yeah.
However, we could be doing more to, like, if you go to historically black communities, we could be doing more to have some ownership there.
Yeah.
If you go to Harston,
Yeah.
traditionally, you come from West London.
Yeah.
You'll see Asian shop, and another Asian shop, and
Yeah.
white person.
Yeah.
That needs to change.
Yeah.
If we're honest. And again, you're gonna. We want the woman to change it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not.
That's men again.
They follow us.
So do you think the men should be more entrepreneurial?
Of course, we need to be more entrepreneurial. We have to be more entrepreneurial
But don't you think,
and more educated.
Yeah, but don't you think the reason for that is because of the breakdown of the family?
Yeah, that's part to play.
And laziness.
Laziness.
Self-esteem.
Okay, going back. Okay,
poor self-esteem.
Okay, but
compromised.
Yeah.
Feeling privileged just to be in this society and wearing nice clothes. That's enough.
Yeah, but when you say the lack of masculine roles, all right. For example, I saw my dad doing this and doing that, and that example is what kind of gets the let's say the son growing up in the household. Say, I look up to my dad. I want to be like my father because my father achieved this, achieved that. And this is what I'm trying to say. Like the breakdown of the family is what stopped that men having that masculine.
You're right, but there's a demographic where that's an issue. Are you Caribbean?
No, from Ghana.
Ghana, okay.
Yeah.
So
The Africans over here. Bro.
So the Caribbean. So our if you're Caribbean second gen, your parents came.
Yeah.
Your dads, generally speaking, were doing, I would say menial labor, but it was like bus driver and carpenters and.
So trade.
These are good jobs. I'm not saying they're not good jobs, but so your dad were less like to say, "Go, son, go university."
Yeah. Okay.
And that's changed, obviously, with our generation.
Yeah.
But there's still that slightly. It's not the same in all African countries, obviously, but we have to. I'm talking about the problems. So I'm talking about when there's an issue.
Yeah.
Anti-educational thinking. That if you're educated, somebody that makes you compromise or white.
Yeah.
There's an element of that still.
Yeah.
Oh, look, who does he think he is? He's going to uni now, he talks different, that type of.
Okay.
There's an element of that still.
Yeah, you're right. I've seen
not
that.
cool.
Yeah.
Cool to go to
They've
uni.
got names for that. Yeah.
There's types of. The only country again, we're the only one that got names for
I
it.
know.
So, these are cultural issues that we've got to deal with.
Yeah.
Cultural issues,
But
and
don't
you can't
think-
blame.
sorry.
You can't always blame the white man.
Yeah.
I know it sounds cliche and cringy,
Yeah.
but we all hear it
Cringy.
sometimes. You can't always blame them for. Cause you could get up and do something. Like
Yeah.
you could be an entrepreneur, even in a society that's a bit marginalized. We have examples of it.
Yeah.
I've done entrepreneurial stuff.
Yeah.
So,
We all can do it. So
Yeah.
we have to push that to don't
Yeah.
just feel like there's barriers everywhere.
Yeah.
And then unfortunately, there's that element still where we believe that there's barriers everywhere. That you're literally like in this bottle, and you can't come out of it regardless of what you do. And that's not that. But again, me saying something like that, someone else probably could say, "Look at him."
He's not pro. That's messed up, though. That is messed up.
You see what I mean?
That's
why you couldn't be your own person at the end of the day.
That's like crab in the barrel. You know what I mean? Oh my days.
Because if you don't
Doesn't
take
look
ownership
good.
of your own, as quite rightly said,
Yeah.
if you don't expect no savior to come and pull
Yeah.
you out. If they've shown you historically, they're not really feeding you like that. Why are they going to study? Why are you begging? Like, why are they going to start feeding you suddenly? Oh, you know what?
Yeah.
Those people that we've marginalized for 600 years, let's start helping them suddenly for no reason.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's like if you consider these people to be your enemy, it's the stupidest thing for you to expect them to help you. It's like it's just logically, just when you think of it, it's just stupid. It's like, bro, listen, they're not gonna help you. If you want to survive, if you want to keep existing, like you know what I mean, like. You need to do for yourself. You need to find something inside of you that will drive you to rise up. Otherwise, if you keep complaining to them, they'll sit there and just watch you.
And we see
Complain
examples
away.
of it, especially in some of our African brothers and sisters. You see examples of them saying, you know what, we need to do my own shit.
Yeah.
I can't swear, sorry.
Yeah,
We need to build our own stuff.
yeah.
We need to actually create our own little
But I-
networks and our own little businesses.
Yeah.
We need that mentality to spread.
Yeah.
John,
for
but
the whole diaspora.
Yeah.
Where the emphasis on, I'm all for education.
Yeah.
I'm all for education because education is a ticket to get out. No, when I say to get out, it's a ticket to move up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
Because the world runs on money. Let's just keep it real.
Facts.
And if you've got short pockets, you're going to struggle.
Yeah.
I still believe that black boys need to grow up. The main issue is the family. I think once the family's fixed, everything else will be fixed. Because I think that once black boys grow up with good examples, good masculine examples, good growing up seeing good family dynamics between the black men and the black women, and seeing their fathers achieving something, and I think that's what's going to give them that's what's going to allow them to even fight the evil culture that they are surrounded by. When you look at the music, when you look at influence them from early age. We know, and this is not something we know what the harm that single parenthood has on the child. Okay, we know psychologically, sexually, and so on. We know what it does, and this is not something. It doesn't matter what race you are of a woman. When a woman raises a child by herself without a man, without a masculine figure there, it's going to be worse for that child. It's just the truth. Now, I think once we fix the family, I think then everything else will kind of come together after that. But we have to fix the family.
Now, what I would say, because I think we have to be mindful that. So the issue is parenting sometimes. It's not the fact that they have a single. I understand what you're saying, because sometimes you can have a two-parent family and they're both degenerates.
I actually touched
on.
Hold on, sorry, John.
And then you can get a single mother
who's
on the ball.
Before you go into that, sorry to interrupt you, brother.
That's true.
You absolutely right. I actually said this, and guys, you can check my that I've said this on the last episode. It's not just about when I said having a father at home, okay, what I usually say is, yes, that helps, but you also need a good moral foundation to follow, basically. Moral foundation that you both the mother and the father hold true to, and they believe in, and they will raise their children according to that ideology and so on and so forth, according to that moral foundation. You need that. Okay, so it's not just having a father at home, like you said. They could be both degenerates. And living in the society that we are currently living in, the likelihood of them even becoming, like, it will still destroy the child regardless, even with the father at home. So it's not just having a father at home. You also need a good moral foundation. I think that's what makes the difference, basically. But the father at home helps the situation.
Oh, yeah, of course.
It helps the situation.
You get the balance of the female energy
that's right,
and the male energy.
Sorry, bro, I didn't mean to interrupt you, sir.
Well-rounded. You need a well-rounded child.
Yeah, I just wanted to make that clear.
What do you think about that idea that it's the moral foundation that needs to... We need a better moral foundation to help the community thrive.
So where does that moral foundation come from, would you say?
That's the question.
Basis of
Yeah, I see. This is...
Also, Nelson would say Christianity.
Yeah, that's when religion comes in.
This guy.
That's when
What would you say then?
I personally, I think you need spiritual foundation.
What does that mean?
From
Wherever you're gonna get it from. Okay. Choose wherever you fit in. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Christianity, innit?
If it's Christianity, but because religion does give a good, solid, moral. It teaches good moral values,
It does.
and we
Can't
need to
deny
get
that.
it from somewhere.
We can't deny that.
Yeah.
So we've established that self-help books don't help. You need
It
a real
helps.
religion.
Self-help books help.
But when people talk about spirituality, but anyways, I don't want to go into the religious talk. But when people talk about they talk about spirituality, it's like identify what spirituality exactly you're talking about and what it teaches. This is my issue when people bring up the word spirituality because it's so broad; it could mean anything.
It does.
But hold on, without going into that. Okay, so what else? What else would you say that the pro-black group is actively trying to change right now, or it's an issue that they are finding in society and they need to, go against it, basically?
And it's just about uplifting. So not being so divisive amongst ourselves, having a bit more self-love and appreciation for each other. There's a lot of bickering, divisiveness that happens, especially online between black people, I find.
What about governments and so on? What is the government doing right now that the pro-black community feels as if it's unjust, it's wrong?
Me, as I said, I start with the small and work my way out.
Yeah.
The government has not, let alone pro-black, but black people are not in there. They don't consider us in anything that they do. I'll give an example. So the Windrush situation.
Oh yes.
Because they were found out, they made a big deal out of it. And what they did then, and I know this firsthand because I was approached by someone in the Home Office to run a workshop where they can talk about compensation. I said, wow, great. In the process of negotiating, the guy just disappeared.
Oh wow.
What do you mean?
He didn't respond to my emails. I'm like, okay, so when are we doing this? No response.
Yeah.
So I realize now, and it's come out now, that was just just to put it out there in the media to say, oh, we've got the compensation scheme. Oh, that's it. We've done that. We've dealt with that. Then now it's coming out that the compensation scheme is a joke.
Yeah, damn.
Like people are not getting their money. People not even Caribbean are getting money. Apparently.
Yeah, damn.
It's been scammed.
Damn.
Yeah, so no control of it. People are scamming it.
Yeah, yeah.
Are you guys surprised?
No, because as I said to you, they don't
serious.
consider us in their role. Remember, they're about, and I don't blame them in a way. Why do you think Sweta Braverman, who's an Asian person, is literally perpetrates like the most right-wing, conservative, slightly racist points? Because she knows to stay in power, she has to ingratiate herself with the largest voting bloc, which is the white population.
Yeah.
So if you're less than 3%, which is what black people are, why are they going to do anything to accommodate us?
But that's normal though. People always say.
I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm just saying that that's why I don't consider. That's why that when you spoke about political, I'm like,
Oh yeah.
I'm that dead. They don't even. I don't even consider them. I don't vote.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wasting my time doing that for when you got people that don't even acknowledge.
Yeah.
And when we do sometimes come in their peripheral vision for an issue, all they do is just say, "Oh, okay, we dealt with that," and not do anything.
Yeah.
Do you think? Would you call that deliberate? They're deliberate. Would you say that they are deliberately discriminating?
It's called benign neglect, which basically means I don't give a shit.
Yeah. That's the best way to sum it up.
They don't. Why am I going to go my way? As I said, they've got their voting block.
Yeah.
Just pander to them, then they will stay in power. Maybe it's all about power. If I pander to my voting block, why do I have to consider myself? Why do I have to worry about what my marginalized people want or need? Or I don't need to do that.
Yeah.
I can completely ignore them. In fact, I could actually start discriminating more to actually more again. If it means discriminating against them, we'll pander more to the group. They'll do it. That's why when that racist pub had those gollywogs hanging, which is a hate crime, and the police came and took it down. So when Braverman said, "Oh, why did they do that for?" Now, why did she go out of her way to do that?
Yeah.
Because she knew doing that is pandering
Yeah.
to a certain group, which keeps them in power.
Yeah.
Do you think that's like a form of oppression?
It is, because then you're not valued. Then you're not valued until you basically say, I don't care about, like, there's not one black person, even if you're compromised, you're going to say that's okay to have gollywogs hanging in the shop. I don't know any black person that would say that's okay, right? But they don't care that we don't find that okay. That's not their concern. They know that we don't like that. That's offensive. But they're like, who
But
cares what they think? They don't vote for us.
I
anyway.
still reckon that it's important to always fight for justice. Where there is injustice, fight for justice. I think it's always important for if it's an injustice, then people should always go out there and always. I don't care how ignored I am.
Yeah,
you always have
always
to
have a voice.
Yeah, you always have to.
For your own self-esteem and mental health.
That's
why I'm not against people protesting. You know, people say, why bother? I say, look, doing that sometimes it helps people's mental, their sense of mental health, and just shouting and being heard. I know what you're saying, but I'm just bringing it, making it. Even just being heard or having a voice is good for someone's mental health. So I'm not against people that do that.
But it also sends a signal to the powers that be that we're not just going to sit back and take it and be all right with it. No,
don't go too far.
Don't go too far or otherwise. Do you see what I'm saying?
We see what happens when you go too far. You get riots in the street. That people don't mess about. If you push, you will get a reaction. And they know that. They know how far to. Absolutely. I know how far to go.
They almost toe the line to that line, and then they'll bring it back.
They get right to that line. Sometimes they'll push it a bit to test, and then
but it seems like there's a lot of work to do in the black community.
A lot of work, bro.
But
I said, if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. So if you're not doing anything, don't complain too much.
For real.
If you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem.
That's exactly what we're about.
That's actually a nice slogan right there. If you're not part of this, you're part of, you know what I mean?
You're part of the problem.
You're part of the problem, bro. Absolutely, I
nice.
agree with you 110%.
So do you think we can get it together, eventually?
I don't think we can.
I think what's going to happen,
I
mentioned this before, things are going to get so, I'm going to use all young people.
So bad.
Peak.
Peak.
That we're going to be forced to.
Do something about it,
That's where we're going to go with that. When we get to the point where we're like, they actually directly.
Do you reckon it could be too late by then?
And you know what I thought was going to happen? With the, I don't know if I can say that on this podcast.
Yes, you can, bro.
Stuff.
I
felt it did. Black people were like, hold on a minute. They're targeting us. We feel a bit targeted.
It affected black people apparently.
It did because the way the police were discriminating, they had the new powers. And I said that would happen. That whenever the police get new powers, we feel it first. The problem. And just the way I thought black people were kind of thinking, hold on a minute, there's something going on now, and it might lead to more kind of marginalization, so let's start to kind of stand up for ourselves. I thought that was happening then, but then they cleverly got rid of that.
I raised my eyebrows as soon as I saw that apparently affects black people more than any other race.
First it did.
Bro, seriously, I almost dropped my drink. I was like, what?
Why would leave that for a second?
I was like, what is this? Is this a joke? But that's what they said. So
they were to hit that serum. They wanted to take that serum. That's why.
Without going into too much.
But black people were smart. But I tell you one thing, black people very quickly, we caught onto that straight away. We know about the Tuskegee experiment in America. We know about what you did in part of the Pacific Islands when you were giving black people experiment to. You think that's what you can?
Don't fall for that.
We do. Both black people were like, no, I'm not involved in that. You know what I mean? So that's what I thought. That gave me hope. I thought, you know what? That shows that when, as I said, when they start pushing and coming, we naturally start to come together and be like, okay, we need to fight this.
It's just the world that we live in. We need to do a show on cancel culture, and how dangerous it can be to freedom of speech. Do we even have freedom of speech anymore? Did we ever have freedom of speech? Do you see what I'm saying to you? Because if they are affecting your voice, if they're affecting the voice that you have, then I mean that means that you can't fight them off on certain things, because it's like I'll just call you names or stop you from saying certain things, because I'll just take your platform away. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, that means they'll just destroy your voice. I mean, that it's becoming normal now. It's like, if you're not part of the agenda, if you don't believe as we believe, then that means your voice, they need to stop you from voicing your opinion, and so on and so forth.
What do you think is, you talk about the agenda. What would you say? Could you articulate what you mean?
It's a Luciferian agenda.
Go on.
It's a Luciferian agenda to integrate all races into believing a Luciferian ideology, and that is the main purpose of it. Yeah, that's it.
And what would you call the Lucifer? I know what you mean when you say that, by the way. But do you want to say what it is, or you rather not?
Luciferian agenda. I mean, you'll know them by their actions. So all you have to do is watch what they are promoting now, watch they are pushing now, and then you'll understand what Luciferian agenda really is. It's just that most people want to bury their heads in the sand, and they don't want to admit that these things are being taught to children, that they are normalizing these things, that even things like abortion, which a few generations back, people would have been, like, what the hell is this? Now it's just become normalized in the conscious, in the psyche of people. People have now accepted it as a normal thing, and you're talking about Holocaust of children, 73 million per year. But look at how people just look at it as if it's nothing. It's the same thing will happen to everything that they're promoting in society. Everything that they're promoting in society. This is a global agenda. This is not just the Western world. This is being pushed by the government. For example, I forgot. Remember that guy? Hard Talk.
I think, was it you Eastern Europe somewhere, Romania or somewhere?
Is that the one about Hungary?
Hungary, that's it. Yeah. Someone from that government, right? He was being interviewed on that Hard Talk show that comes on, and apparently the reason why Hungary hasn't received billions of by the
European Union funding.
The reason why they haven't received billions is because they haven't accepted certain laws.
Isn't it happening in Africa as well?
Yeah. They haven't accepted certain LGBTQ laws. They haven't accepted, that. So that's the reason why they haven't received billions. So this is.
I think that is because if you really think about it, it makes no difference to these Western powers whether these people accept these laws or not. And they don't care about the LGBT community. They don't really care. So that we've got to look at what really that's about. That's just about exerting influence and power and exercising compliance, which is again is what the pandemic was about. Don't forget who's in control of the world order. And if we tell you to do something, you do it.
But you see, that's the thing. Control. I usually say control for what? I can control my family, but I control it for a reason. I control it so that
it for what,
So it's like a lot of people use terms like control. Yeah, they're controlling you, but for what? These people are extremely powerful. You're not talking about they invade countries by just making up an excuse. They'll go and invade whatever they want if they really want to. It's not, there's no diploma. It's just military force. But
influence and power
is exactly. But the thing is, they want it for a reason. That's what you need to be scared of. It's what's the reason? Because you're not going to legalize abortion for no reason. You're not going to introduce LGBTQ to children in schools and so on for no reason. These things are not being done for no reason. You're not going to come up with an ideology that says men and women are equal and destroy the family nucleus for no reason. You're not doing that for no reason. Yes, they control.
We're going to get deep now. Masonic quote, isn't it? That motto that they have. Order ad chaos.
Out of chaos, yeah.
Order out of chaos.
Out of chaos, yeah. But the thing is, it's their order. So they create the chaos and then establish the order, and that's what you call the New World Order. So that's what they're doing. So they have created chaos. Now they're establishing the new order.
Well, ultimate aim is to de-gender everything, isn't it?
Yes.
To have a society that's the genders.
Can I just ask you a question, bro? How many genders are there?
There's two genders, man and woman.
God
If
bless
you ask me
you.
what a woman is too, I answer that directly as well.
Well, you can't say
Human
that.
being with a womb.
One day, okay. One day,
Straight.
one day you will not be able to say that. One day,
For real.
the day.
Well, they're already creating words.
Yeah, yeah.
They're already creating a new vocabulary to attack people who say that.
Who say that?
And then what they'll do, and this is why I'm so against, when I hear, you know, in these different forums, you have a black person say, oh, you're homophobic.
I'm not a homophobic.
And I always say, as a black person, stop doing that. Particularly, I tell you why, particularly as black people, stop calling people homophobic. Because when that becomes criminalized, where you can get sanctioned for saying something homophobic,
Yeah.
who are they going to come for?
Yeah.
The same people they always come for when there's a new law that they can enact on the population. The people they've always had an issue with, they'll always disproportionately affect. So stop calling each other homophobic, because when it becomes illegal, you're self-snitching.
Yeah, literally, yeah.
You're self-snitching.
Yeah. But the thing is, look, for example, this is just proof that I don't have a problem with people that choose to be gay or choose to be, I have no issue with that, right? Let's say there was a Christian guy who was struggling because he felt that he was gay, right? But he believed that, okay, look, sin is everywhere, all right? Like, committing adultery is a sin. Lying is a sin, you know, so being homosexual, we consider it to be a sin as well. Now, if that person said, look, I know what I'm doing, I believe in Jesus Christ, in Christianity, and what I'm doing is wrong, I know that, you know, I wouldn't judge them. Just like I wouldn't judge a person that says, I hate Christianity and Christianity is over. I don't have no issues with them. My issue with them is when they want to label me as homophobic. They want to say that I hate them because of, you know what I mean, because I disagree with their sexuality. It's like this. Stop coming up with names trying to label me and almost, well, they're attacking me, really. They're attacking me.
I have a slightly different view on that, because I actually do believe that some people are born attracted to the same gender.
I don't.
Jeez.
I believe that some people are born that way.
How come?
I'll tell you why. Because I've seen it.
Okay.
I've worked with very young children before.
Yeah.
And I've seen a very young boy being very effeminate. And as he grew up older,
like you could just tell
he has become right. Now, he was born that way. I mean, he didn't see anything that made him. Do you know what I mean?
I don't agree.
And I think there are some people that, for whatever reason, and so those people, you have to be careful about calling them sinners and things. This is why I think about, because then they didn't, you know, they didn't choose that.
You see,
This is why we have to be careful. I think with the sometimes about the language.
We have to be careful of that argument, because they're going to use the same argument to legalize pedophilia. What I'm basically saying is this. Check this out. Now, according to there's nothing in science that says a person is born gay. There's no gene there's no homosexual gene. This is a fact. This is actually an argument that has been addressed many times in the scientific sphere. The homosexual community was kind of trying to find, scientifically speaking, a gene that justifies them being born, because that's one of the arguments that they came up with, and it had to be. It was literally the entire argument was destroyed because there's no gene that says there's no homosexual gene for it. Now, of course, are certain men a bit more feminine than other men? Yes, absolutely, you're absolutely right.
So how do you count for that young person?
I would say we have loads of desires. Just because we have loads of desires.
As a child?
Hold on. No. I would say we have loads of desires. Human beings have loads of desires. That doesn't mean I'm gonna act on these desires. So, for example, I could feel angry and want to punch someone's face, but I restrain myself because I think that's not the right way of doing it. Just because you have a desire for something, there's certain human beings that want to have sex with animals. Just because you have a desire for something, it doesn't mean that desire is right. So for example, we know, biologically speaking, that a man is supposed to enter a woman. When you look at the biology of a woman, the biology of a man. So
It fits.
we know what we know what the right thing is. So regardless of how you feel, see, because we're entering into this, because he's a bit more like this or he feels like this, then therefore we need to say that this is the right way for him to go. No, it's not the right way. Your biology is still a masculine biology, regardless. So that just tells you what you should be doing with that biology. So just because you feel that you're a bit more, that doesn't make it right at all.
That's a good point. That's a good point, because do we hear stories that people are born attracted to want to sleep with animals? Because
No, we don't.
once you accept that
You open the Pandora's box.
you open the gate. You open the gate.
I'm attracted to walls. I'm attracted
but
to.
I do think that it does happen. It is possible, but there's other things in play like food, and the injections babies get at an early age as well. But yeah, in some cases, it might be the case.
Sexual abuse.
We don't
From a
really-
very early age
yeah.
can feminize a man.
We don't like with that particular child. We don't really know
Yeah.
what they've been exposed to or what traumas they've had.
Sexual abuse apparently is one of the methods that it's used in the occult in order to feminize men. It's a very powerful tool that they use in order to feminize men. Sexual abuse is it's horrific. Regardless, you still have a biology that's masculine. You still have a biology you're supposed to mate with a woman. If you look at the male biology, you can see where that, where it's supposed to go to. So it's like, regardless of how you were born, regardless of how you feel, right is right, wrong is wrong.
That's assuming he believes in the regeneration of.
No. I mean, come on.
Humanity.
Listen, procreation, right?
Yeah.
We're put on earth to procreate, right? That's the reason why we have the biology, and that's how we managed to survive so far up until now. And so, how did we achieve procreation? By a man and a woman coming together and having babies. So, regardless of whether you have feminine characteristics as a man, it still doesn't change the fact that you still have a duty to your biology, which is and a duty to procreate. To procreate. And I mean, come on. I mean,
I guess the question is, what do we do with people who stray from that? I guess you call it norm, or isn't it?
Yeah.
From that.
The natural.
Yeah. From that. So what do we do? Because if you have people that, for whatever reason, express a desire for the same sex, should we isolate them?
No. Don't
You know what I
isolate.
mean? So this is what I'm saying. We have to. This is I guess the point I'm making is that, again, back to the pro-black thing. This is why I'm not into like everybody has to be on the same.
Yeah.
If there's an overall,
Yeah.
there should be some foundation there.
Yeah.
But there's so much we can do. Just being on code on just simple things.
Yeah.
Where someone who's of that persuasion can be involved in it.
Yeah.
I don't think they should be involved. I think, first of all, no one should be discriminating against them because they made their choice. First of all, we shouldn't necessarily isolate them, but in terms of actually partaking as becoming part of the ideology. So, for example, in order for you to be pro-black, if pro-black says this is wrong, and if he's coming in and saying no, this is right, now there's a conflict. There's a problem there, because this is what we stand for. But if you come in and you say, look, guys, look, I'm fighting for your cause. I know that you guys don't agree with it. I will not advocate for what I'm personally doing while on your platform and so on and so forth. Then that's fine. That's absolutely fine. Of course, you have to and you have to also tell them, listen, the reason why we believe this is wrong, and offer your reasons and educate them as to why you believe that this is wrong and why you guys don't follow that. Whether he accepts it or not, it's neither here nor there. But if he's coming into your platform and he's saying, look, guys, I believe that you guys are wrong and we should be this and that and that and that
wouldn't work.
It wouldn't work. It just wouldn't work. It wouldn't work.
You have to have some level of.
Yeah.
I guess I can go back to the code, isn't it?
Yeah.
If your code is the foundation of the black community, is a black man, woman, and child.
You can't
stay away from that.
You can't stay away.
If you come into that culture and you don't do that, then you can't be seek to promote anything else.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's like a
yeah.
Christian,
I see that.
it's like a homosexual that accepted Christianity, but he still struggles with his homosexuality, and he comes into the church, and I'm not gonna throw him out. That it's like Christ even said, no, you don't do that. But if he starts to advocate for homosexuality while in church, so if I say, I think it's wrong, I think the Bible is wrong, and so on and so forth, then we're gonna say, sorry, mate, well, the Bible is not wrong. I'm sorry, and then we're gonna give our reasons for it. We're gonna have that discussion. We're not gonna throw him out or anything, but we are going to tell him that we don't agree with the fact that he's coming in and advocating for something that obviously we don't believe in and the Bible doesn't support. That's just a fact. You know? But yeah. What's the
Interesting
solution?
conversation. Well, no, it's good. It's good to have you on because before, when I was researching into pro-black movement stuff, I thought it was mainly going to be about the oppression of black people having from white people. But it's good to have you talk about the kind of topics about family and kind of helping build that and fix that
Yeah.
from the family unit outwards.
Yeah.
And
You
being
can't just be focused on that because that's a given. We know
Yeah.
with history to show that it's the pressure that's happened, and it's not going to change anytime soon. That's why I said I don't really value people who that's their only focus of identifying as pro-black. That's racist. This is racist. Oh look, he's being racist. Oh that's racist. If that's all you're doing,
Yeah, that's
pointing out racism,
Yeah.
a white person can do that.
anyone
Yeah.
can do that.
Yeah,
Really.
And they do actually. So.
Yeah, they do.
So
Yeah.
it's got to be more than that. Like, anyone can do that.
Yeah,
You're really
yeah.
doing something to actually develop your own
Yeah.
culture and your community.
Yes.
And that involves addressing things
Yes.
that are wrong.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not as I said a lot of stuff here that a lot of people will be like, oh no, he's actually talking that. No, because we're going to talk about the things that are wrong.
Yeah,
That's
internally,
the thing.
within the community, and outwardly.
Yeah.
So you have to identify everything
Yeah,
from
you
both
got, everything's
sides.
got to be hit.
Addressed, yeah. Yeah, yeah,
Well, that's the
absolutely.
thing. I think the backbone. We've talked about this before, but it's like you can kind of identify the backbone of society being the nuclear family. So if we
Yeah.
can make that
Work.
work and be as strong as possible, and have kids growing up in families where both parents are together, I think that's a key thing for the development of our future society.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah, definitely worth advocating and helping people understand that
Yeah.
is going to be a big part of the solution.
Yeah, definitely. What's your solution, bro?
And it goes back, as I said, to the
Yeah.
men. We got, as men, if we talk about the black community, as black men, we just got to take accountability of the wrong that we've done
Mm.
and heal from that as much as we can.
Yeah.
And then just try and do better. As I said, be part of the solution, not the problem. So don't perpetuate more trauma on people. If you know that's the important part, and try not to do that as much as you can. Have some influence on your own children and other people's children if there's a lack there. So be active in your community. That's basically what I'm talking about. Be active, and just be a defender. As I said, defend the community, uplift the community. You know, it's not hard to do those type of things. Don't just allow any ideology or talking point to come in amongst you, and you're just accepting it. If it's detrimental to the overall good of the black community, don't be scared or frightened to say, no, I don't want my child to hear that. I don't want my children around this.
Yeah.
And if it means taking a child out of an environment where they're doing it, do it.
I agree with that.
But that
100%.
means ownership. That means you've got to take ownership.
Yeah.
You know, we have that sense of ownership.
Mm.
You know, because a lot of black men, we have this sense of, okay, we're under this kind of system and we've got to go with what? There's no ownership. Yeah, you have ownership as a sovereign human being, male. You have ownership. You can have ownership if you want.
Yeah.
Because there's people that do it. They take ownership of their environment and their family, and they resist stuff that comes into it that's detrimental to their community. But we need to have more of that.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
My solution, I would say, it goes back to the family unit, the nuclear. The nuclear family unit needs to come back. It needs to come back in the black community. It needs to be prioritized. I think that's the only way we are going to be able to sow the seeds of trust amongst the black community. In the black community, that's how you sow the seeds of trust, is through the nuclear family, through father, mother, children, and so on and so forth. That's how you get a strong community, and everything else builds from that, businesses and so on, because you're sowing the seeds of trust. I would also say that I have no problem with the pro-black community being race loyalist. I think it's important, given the level of ideologies that are anti-life that are being promoted within the black community, and are helping to destroy the black community. And I believe because we are the minority, we are going to be affected the most compared to others who still have their beliefs intact and so on, their moral foundations intact and so on and so forth. So, but now that we don't even have, most black people don't identify themselves as Christians. We don't really have a moral foundation because we're kind of bought into all these different ideologies, foreign ideologies that's helping to destroy us. So I'm all for black people, for the pro-black community, advocating for, race loyalism, so to speak. All for that. So yeah, but everything starts with the family. Until we fix that, I don't think we're going to have a community at all.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with everything everybody's saying. Just to add to what you guys are saying, I would just say to sell yourself on the benefits of developing the black community. So when I say sell yourself, like really get into believing in it and having a conviction that it can progress and it's for our best interest and the best interest of the overall society, that we get our act together. So yeah, like if it means becoming obsessed and falling in love with your community, then go for it.
Maybe.
Yeah.
All right. Another great episode.
Great conversation. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thanks
Good build.
Thanks for coming through. It's an honor to
Yeah.
have you, man.
Jeez. Yeah. Need to find out about the what you call it, the work you're doing in the community and stuff like that, man. Yeah. Definitely sounds interesting.
But yeah, guys, so do you want to plug anything in? Follow you somewhere?
No.
Yeah.
No, you're good.
Okay, guys, man, we'll see you next episode. Yeah. So yeah, stay tuned, man. The Solution.